Hello, good morning, everyone. My name's Nicole Galacci, and I'm the Talent Solutions Manager with FoodGrads. FoodGrads is a program partner of CareersNow, and we're really excited to join you today and bring some friends from Conestoga Meats with us to talk about the career paths and the organization a little bit. And, please feel free to ask any questions. If you're watching this recorded, you can absolutely reach out to me if you have questions for anyone that you see here today, and I'd be happy to bring those to your attention even after the event today. So again, Careers Now. If you haven't really heard of us, this is actually our first session in 2023. So I should have started by saying Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. I think we're going to start first of all with Michael, who is going to talk about his career path, what he does with Conestoga Meats, and just a little bit about himself. So thank you, Mike, and if you'd like to go ahead.
Thanks, Nicole. It's a pleasure to participate in your podcast here and have the opportunity to talk about Conestoga Meats and my career path. I've been at Conestoga Meats for over 8 years, and this is a second career for me. For 25 years, I was a chef, food and beverage manager, and cook. I was dedicated to the food world. And I got to a point in my life where I couldn't do it anymore, the hours and whatnot, and didn't know what I was going to do next. And Conestoga Meats has always been hiring as we've been expanding. So it was a great opportunity. I got in here, and it was great just to decompress. I worked on the line for 4 years, and started doing some training just kind of on a volunteer basis in the organization, and discovered that I loved it and had an aptitude for it. And then I went to night school at a community college locally and got a certificate in adult learning. And that really opened up the door here. I had no idea that they were going to have a position open anytime soon. It was just something that I liked doing. And then for about 4 years, they created a position, and I moved into the training department. We were a training department of 2. Now we're a training department of 3. And for the last 4 years, I've been building training programs here at Conestoga Meats in health and safety, and now in professional development for the salary group.
That's a cool story. And how did you transfer your skills from working in the restaurant industry to working in, and that's awesome and fascinating to me, have people's different stories. I mean, people often, when they think about careers in food and beverage, do think of food service and restaurants first. And so I love the fact that you made that transition. But if you wouldn't mind sort of sharing how you transitioned, the skill set that you believe is, transferable.
Well, for sure. In the food business, now more than ever, I think, but in my time, you're always hiring, firing, and training. That's what you're doing. And for a bulk of my career, I was in the golf industry, where every year it was a new batch of staff. And so you're training people to do the same things. And so over the years, I was figuring out, how can I avoid the mistakes year after year that people would make through the training, by giving them scenarios and figuring out how to break down processes and give trainees the information they needed when they needed it. So I was doing that naturally as a food and beverage manager year after year. And then when I started training here on the volunteer basis, my brain automatically went there. I started doing lockout tagout. And so I was using lockout tagout as a food and beverage manager, but it was a form of lockout tagout. All I did is applied that knowledge here, and I was able to pull out scenarios and connect with people in the training room. And I know as a chef, your brain is always going. As a food and beverage manager, there's always something going on. You have to be very efficient in how you organize your day, organize your week. You're juggling multiple things. And so standing in front of a classroom with people, you're doing the same kind of thing. You're trying to stay one step ahead, but know the content as well. There's a lot of transferable skills there. I'm sure there's others that I'll think about afterwards, but I've said before to people, if you can make it in the food business for 10 years or more, there isn't a job you can't do, because the skills required to survive in that industry and excel in it are transferable to many, many different things. Multitasking is a huge one. Prioritizing, uh, problem solving, critical thinking. Things happen. You got to solve a problem very quickly without your guest, knowing it.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it may not seem like it's transferable to a training role, but I've managed to draw from all of those things at different times in the training room, or when preparing training. I sit down with somebody like Joe, who's a subject matter expert in boning hands. I didn't bone hands, I boned loins. But drawing out that information from Joe as the subject matter expert, or Ryan? I might have to work with Ryan to pull that information out. You have to wear many hats. Put yourself in their shoes, understand the process, but think ahead and try to think about, okay, what would my learner need to know? What kinds of information do I need to pass on to that learner, and try to draw that information out in those meetings and whatnot. So that skill comes from somewhere. As I said, 25 years as a chef and food and beverage manager, it came from there.
So what does a typical day look like for you now?
So my role's changed a little bit. For the last 4 years, I was building the health and safety modules, and we have all of our frontline workers, all of our frontline jobs have what we call a visual job card. So it's been maintaining those things. In the last year, I've transitioned to focusing more on our salary group, coming up with training modules for them. So my typical day is today anyways, I've got 4 or 5 trainings booked for my salary group over the next week and a half. And so it's answering emails, double checking that the information is correct, plugging the information into my dashboards that I've created to keep it organized, to try to keep all of those sessions organized. So who's going to each one, communicating with our outside vendor who's going to be providing that training, making sure the communication is clear and concise, and that everybody's on the same page, and that I'm organized. So a lot of answering emails at this point. I'm more project based. So I'm working on some learning modules for our salaried group, whether it's a GHS or WMIS refresher or respectful workplace module. If I've met with the subject matter expert, I'm developing a narrative for that. And once I've developed the narrative, it's going back and forth, making sure that the requester of that training is along for the ride. They understand what I'm going to present before I present it. So if I'm not coordinating training for a group of people, then I'm building training, and there's a process that we've developed, that I go through to build that training before we get in front of the people or present a module or what have you.
So you pretty much work across all departments. Like everyone knows who you are.
One of the things I've told people I have the best job in the whole plant, because I get to talk to everybody from the floor to the president, and I'm inquisitive, so I like to learn about what Joe is doing. I like to learn about what Ryan's up to, and dig into what makes their job tick. I'm glad I don't have to do it. I just have to learn enough about it to make the training product that I make convincing but relevant, and another thing that I consider is long lasting. If I'm going to put the effort into making this training module, I don't want it to be outdated 12 months from now. So the time required, is this a message? And those are questions that I ask in a needs assessment of Ryan. Is this going to change? What is going to change? Because I can build that into some flexibility within that as well.
That's awesome. I have more questions, but we'll go around and then we'll have more discussion at the end. So thank you. Ryan, do you want to go next? Kind of introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Nicole. My career really started at McMaster. I did my undergrad in honors life science. I graduated in 2017, and I immediately went into my master's of business administration. I did 3 co-ops there. One as a policy analyst for the Ministry of Finance. And then I did 2 at Ford of Canada, 1 in government relations, and then I pivoted into parts and service marketing. From there, I got hired as a pricing analyst, so pricing out new vehicles across all the dealerships in Canada. And and then I had the opportunity to come for a tour here at Conestoga, and I immediately fell in love with it. I loved how busy it was. I loved how fast paced it was, the growth that Conestoga has. And I came over, and I've been here now 2.5 years, and it's been a great 2.5 years.
Amazing. And it's interesting you said you fell in love with it. I think a lot of people, we say this constantly, because kind of my role is to encourage people to explore careers in the food and beverage industry. So I would say, one question, was it promoted at your school? Like, was food and beverage something that you heard about whilst you were at McMaster or any time during your education?
I would say food and beverage wasn't as heavily promoted, especially during my MBA. There wasn't a ton of opportunities for me to jump into it. But that being said, I also, maybe wouldn't have actually pictured myself in the food and beverage industry until I kind of came into Conestoga and saw all that was happening. I guess that I had some misconceptions along with that I didn't necessarily know what the opportunities were available to me. So the second I came in here, it kind of opened my eyes, and I was really amazed by all the opportunities that were provided and the growth in the industry and growth within Conestoga, all the opportunities that could come my way in the near future. So.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to later on sort of talk about the misconceptions of the industry, especially in a meat environment. I think, there's some facts. There are some, some areas that are just what they are within the industry, certainly in the meat sector. But I think lots of people can be haven't had the full picture of how technology and innovation has advanced things and what it really looks like now. So did you always, so in terms of the role that you're in right now, was it something you always thought you'd do, or did you more so fall into that particular role?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I started off my university experience in honors life science, so not even in the business world. I thought I was going to do something in healthcare, but then as I got closer to the end of my undergrad, I realized, there's so much more potential, and I don't want to do another 4 years. My brother was also in business school at that time, and he kind of said, well, why don't you check out the business side of things? So as I kind of took additional courses on top of my undergrad, I soon came to realize, I can apply a lot of my principles in my undergrad in terms of the analytics side, in terms of the data analysis and the procedures, that the skills that I gained in my undergrad while doing the science courses, I could actually apply to the business field. And that's where I started to fall in love with the kind of the data side of things and really digging into that to find out key insights in the data. So after I started understanding that and then I journeyed through my MBA, I realized that I really fell in love with the data analytics side, which I've been able to apply here at Conestoga just because of the vast amount of data that we have, whether that is hog data, whether that is sales data, like all of that is really accessible here. And I can take that data and kind of use it to drive real insights and real changes within the business.
And 2 more questions for you. How big's the team? How big's the team you're currently in?
Yeah, so the finance team is kind of broken out into the IT team as well as the accounting team. I have my own team, the financial planning analysis team, which has 2 different analysts on it and a co-op student. And then the accounting team has about 8 members on it, and the IT team has, I think, around 10 people. So yeah, a great team to work with.
And what is your typical day look like?
Oh, well, that's a tricky question for me because my day is largely structured around different projects. Like I said before, we take any data that we have, and we have a lot of it, and whether that is hard data, operational data, sales data, and we're really trying to drive real metrics with that data. So depending on the projects that we're doing, the business cases that we're creating, the requests that we have, It could be ad hoc analysis, or it could be drawing up business cases to really see if expansion or capital investment is worth it or not.
Gotcha. Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your insights. And we'll go over to Joe. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your role.
Yeah. Hi, Nicole. My name's Joe Melton. So I've been working with Conestoga now for 12 years. I started very young. I started right out of college and actually went for police foundations, right? So something completely unrelated to the business of meat, right? So roughly 3 years into my career at Conestoga, I just started on the line, kind of fresh out of college, kind of just looking for a job to pay off student debt and whatnot. I wasn't really sure. And they did say in college, apply when you're at your best, right? So I was just looking to grow a bit as a person, right? Getting involved in some kind of work and look to pay off student loans. And kind of starting off at Conestoga, I wasn't sure what I was going to expect. So I started on the factory line, right on a production line, right in the heart of things. And I actually started out working on the kill floor. So with meat industry, right, there's you have a kill and a cut and a packaging. So that's kind of how it happens. But I started off working there and then worked my way through. So being a little bit younger, newer to the facility, right, I had a lot of opportunity for learning right off the start. So working my way through all the different production lines. I started in kill first, worked my way to the dressing floor, and then Conestoga also expanded very quickly. So there's a lot of expansion at these kind of companies right now. So it offered me the opportunity to go to an afternoon shift, and they had lead hand roles, so something a little bit off the line, a little bit more with managing people and whatnot, right, and leading a team. So I took that on, right. I did apply for it. I was able to be successful, and I worked there for about 3 years on the afternoon shift. And this is all as Conestoga is expanding, so with the food industry. And we had just after that, I switched to a supervisor role. So, and I've been doing that for the last about 7 years now. So I did 2 years. And then recently I was offered about 2 years ago the chance to move over to the cut side. So again, just opportunity within. And Conestoga has been really good for that. I think in the food industry, a lot of times it's overlooked as what it really has to offer. And sometimes people just think of the production line, but you can see just in this simple meeting here, we have a training specialist, someone from finance. I've worked with people on the line as well that have found themselves as maintenance apprentice, electrician apprentices, IT people that have come from the line. So sometimes people overlook the fact of the career you can have at a company like this or the food industry, and it's overlooked. So sometimes my story myself, right, I would have never pictured myself to be in a situation I'm in now, and I'm happy with my career, right? I'm constantly challenged. There's room for growth, and it's always consistent with work available. There's one thing that people always have to do, and it's continue eating. So, right, during the COVID pandemic, everything, we were continuously working. We didn't have issues with so it's really good to have that, right? So sometimes those things are overlooked. So I've had a really good, successful time at Conestoga, and I've also just continued to keep moving forward with the opportunities that are given to me, right? So yeah, that's my story.
That's I think that's a really important note to make. I mean, I've been in the food industry for almost 10 years, and one of the reasons I chose the food industry to start recruiting in my HR career was really how we're really down to the people. I just, the people in general are nurturing. They feed people. There's no airs and graces. Like, this is what we do. And I think the COVID, the pandemic really amplified that, where people had, when everyone else could stay home and be safe, you guys were going into the office and into the plant and keeping the shelves full. So that's one of the things I talk to students about all the time, and people that are unsure about what career path to take. That people who are always going to need to eat. This industry is not going anywhere. So how would you say to that to encourage young people to explore careers in food and beverage?
Well, I think one thing you look for in a career is consistency and a job security, right? So like I said before, we're always going to eat. There's always going to be food to be put on the shelves. And it is a lot of people, when you're thinking of a career, you want to look for a meaningful career that kind of brings you a little bit of joy. So when you go to the grocery store, when I do, and I find my product on the shelf, stuff we've done, it's kind of a surreal feeling to see your product on the shelf and know that you had a part in it. And it really plays to it, right? So
yeah,
it's good to get into. And there's a lot of avenues. Sometimes people just think of it as a simple factory line, but you can see the difference. It's Ryan in finance or sales, there's everything. So really, sometimes just starting out, it branches out to so much more, right? So I think
I think when you're young, you don't know the different career paths that are available.
Yeah, sometimes you don't, right? So sometimes getting involved in it is a really good career. It was considered essential in the COVID times too, which we've seen a lot of people shift. We've seen a lot of people come from different types of factories too, from different types of schooling that their careers might have not have been deemed essential as well. So it has been really, really great to have that opportunity, right? I know for me, I was just happy to be able to continue working, and that was great for me, right?
How many people are in your team, Joe? How many people do you supervise?
Right now, directly, I have 2 lead hands and then 147 people directly under me.
And you enjoy managing or
I did.
supervising?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've been doing it for the last 7 years. And one thing I do like about it is you have a chance to change things for people on the line, to treat them a certain way, to create a culture, a work environment that people can learn and grow in, right? You're looking for other talent. You're looking to bring people up and build them up as well, looking for opportunities to improve them, looking for opportunities as a company to make more money, everything, right? There's everything you deal with in my kind of role.
Nicole, can I pick up on something Joe said too?
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, like this is a second career for me. When I came to Conestoga Meats, I thought it was going to be a 3 or 4 month gig until I could figure out what I wanted to do next. But I really attribute a lot of my success here to a supervisor who saw potential. And I thought I was just a cog in the wheel. But one thing that I really noticed when I came here, had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. Never worked in a factory before. But I thought I was going to be just a number, right? Just another warm body. But I quickly realized that the supervisors and lead hands worked so well together. They were cordial and friendly, and they got to know me, and they got to know what my background was. And within 6 months, opportunities were popping up. And so to Joe's point, he has 146 people, was it, Joe? I know Joe knows each and every one of them. It takes time to get to know them because there are other opportunities. And we want to see the right person go into the right area. We've had people, like you said, go into maintenance because they had mechanical aptitudes. It sometimes takes some time to get there, but one of the things that our culture here is you start out on the floor and some people just love it. That's where they stay. But if people have some other kind of interest or aptitude, we'll figure out what it is and we'll get you where you need to be.
So important right now too, with the state of labor and talent attraction, having that option and showing that management and HR have a bias for that to take a look at the individual and have a plan in place. If the person wants to, like you said, some people are content and more than happy. And you need those people too.
We need them. Yep.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, all of you to weigh in if you would. One thing that I always tell students and grads and people that are career changers, we work with newcomers, all different job seekers, is that the food industry does hire from within first. And I think you've touched on it a little bit, but because of the nature of food, someone that's come in at the ground level has learned the business and has shown an interest to grow in the organization will. And you hear that story time and time again. I've been a recruiter for 10 years. I've talked to thousands of job seekers and interviewed them. And I always, it's similar to your story, Michael, where you said, I zigged and I zagged essentially, and I ended up here and it's been amazing. And then people don't leave the food industry once they're in. What would you say, Ryan, feel free to go ahead first, with regards to that, the opportunities once you're in the industry?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Understanding, especially here at Conestoga, understanding the culture and fitting in with that culture is huge here. We constantly want to be promoting people who are showing what we call the Conestoga way and the values that Conestoga has. We really want to, especially if they're showing great aptitude and achieving their company objectives and their personal objectives. I think it's really important that we continue to promote those people because those are our future leaders. I think, honestly, those who are following within that culture and are growing in that culture and showing that they're doing a great job, I think is really important. And yeah, to be honest, I think
opportunities will be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, our culture is an us culture. It's not a me culture. And so people that tend to get promoted or have opportunity, they understand that instinctively that we're a team. It's not my career. It's my career on the team, right? And I've seen it time and again. There are people that have experience, but if they don't have that part of the culture, the opportunities just don't, materialize, right? Or they don't advance.
Yeah, and I think it's really about the attitude that they have towards work, and like Mike said, about the cultural fit is huge here at Conestoga.
Joe, do you have anything to add there? I mean, you started, like you said, in the entry level role.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before a lot of time, like what you asked Ryan the question about does the food industry oftentimes get overlooked? I remember back when I was in high school and careers and stuff like that, right? It isn't something that's mentioned a lot by careers classes and whatnot. And like you mentioned before, it is a lot of times it's understaffed. There's a lot of opportunities to come in. So we do often hire very quickly, right? And with that, and because of growing within, I think any good business should always look to grow within their people, right? If you're not training properly inside, then I think there's something wrong. But with that, and specifically Conestoga Meats, we've been having a great opportunity with learning opportunities, right? They give us a chance to learn and grow. And there's a good opportunity if you're someone new looking to get in, and you're looking for a career, a specific career path, or maybe not even sure which road you want to go on, right? So with all these opportunities, like I mentioned before, right? I've seen people work on the line, start off in a similar situation to mine, and end up as a maintenance apprentice, and now they're a millwright. I've seen people as electricians. I've seen people go to sales. I've seen people become shipping drivers, and they're in careers they like now. And they started on the line, maybe not sure what they're going to do, but it was an opportunity to get in somewhere to start off and kind of figure yourself out a little bit, right? And sometimes you may get in a position where you leave and you seek other opportunities. But I would say overall, I've seen and learned and grown with a lot more people that have stayed and left the industry.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. We have a question that's just come in. Is there a special step you take during the hiring process to gauge fit?
So yeah, Conestoga Meats, they do have, are you talking about like physical fitness?
Well, in terms of cultural fit, yeah, like how they're going to fit within your organization.
So I can't 100% comment on it, but I know from a hiring point, we have a recruitment team that does recruit, right? So they're looking for basically anybody, depending on the position you're applying for. If it's just a general labor position getting in, right? They'd have a physical test, and they'd also be looking for communications. We have different people at Conestoga, different language barriers, right? That we work with among. So there's not really, I wouldn't say there's no one that's accepted right now, right? When you're looking to get into the food industry. And I think it's really up to you when you get in on the route you take. Like Michael said before, there's some people that are content with just working on the line and they're happy with that. And there's other people that want to take on more, right? So, but if you are one of those people who like to take on more, the opportunities here, because it's not something that we're having a lot of hiring from especially a younger crowd as well, right? So if you're looking to get into the food industry, looking for a career path, it's a great opportunity for someone who's looking for that, right? So I can't say there's a specific set of skills that's looked for. I think it's just the person you are, and if you're willing to commit to a scheduled work time, right?
Yeah.
Nicole, we have within the last year, we hired 2 people to the training team, and I was involved in that process. And we have specific questions in the interview process that are meant to draw out. We have six core values in our Conestoga way. And so there are 6 different types of questions that are designed to drill down and to pull out some of those values out of the candidate. And so that is part of the interview process, whether the candidate realizes it or not. They're situational questions, but they're meant to see if that fit is there. And so when you're interviewing multiple people, you can quickly realize, okay, which one answered that question in a way that better meets our values. We want our employees' values and our values to align.
Gotcha. And from an individual perspective, so Ryan, if someone's looking to join your team, Jason said, thank you. Brilliant. Thank you. If someone's looking to join your team, what would be like the, I don't know, top 2 or 3 skills, both soft skills and technical skills that you look for someone to join the finance Or
Yeah, I think
times?
the biggest thing with me is it's all about curiosity. I think curiosity, asking the right questions, being open to learning new things. Oftentimes, those hard skills are able to be taught, but it's the softer stuff that you really are looking for. So, being able to ask the right question, being open to learning new things, being honest and truthful. And then on the hard skills, I would say really looking at your Excel skills on the intermediate side um, or advanced side, and just being honest about them as well. I can't stress that enough. How many times I've interviewed someone who says that they have advanced skills, and then you kind of start crying a little bit, and you understand that maybe you're not as advanced as you think you really are.
You'll be given a project and then the truth will come out. Michael, what about you? What would be for your team the top, if someone wants to get into training, what would be the top 3 skills?
Well, we just went through it, and I'm happy to say we hired 2 people from our production line, and as a team, we have close to 30 years experience of production experience in our facility. What I was really looking for was somebody who wouldn't be above the job on the floor. So you're working in the HR department. You're not above that. We came from the floor. We need to pull that experience and honor that experience in what we do. I was looking for some computer literacy as well. And I'm happy to say that the candidates that we got and that we hired have been amazing onboarding. They've really embraced the software and whatnot. But I needed that because a lot of the tools that we use are computer software, and you need to have that critical thinking and problem solving when you're flipping between platforms or troubleshooting issues. So I'm happy to say they had that, but it was definitely something that I had said we need this is a skill level, or we need to draw this out in the interview, that problem solving ability. And I love Ryan's answer there of inquisitiveness and curiosity. So when we get into that situation where you're talking to a subject matter expert, I don't need to know how to fix that piece of machinery, but I need to be curious enough to pull out all that information, because it's got to be built into the training tool that we're going to then use and reuse to get a consistent training. So those are some of the soft skills and hard skills that I look for.
And Joe, what about you?
So for me, like Michael mentioned, I kind of start off at the beginning of everything, right? So it's kind of where all the magic happens on the floor. So what we're looking for as well is number one, it's someone who has good attendance, who's looking to commit to something. And again, I think what Ryan mentioned is really good. You have to have that drive, right? The drive to want to do more, to want to improve yourself, because there is a lot of opportunity to have that in this kind of industry as well, right? A lot of people, they don't come to us with knife skills or things like that, right? It's something that usually at Conestoga or the food industry, those are things that are taught to you when you come in. You do get the rare case where you have someone like Michael who came with chef experience in the past, but a lot of times it's something new, right? It's new to someone to come to here and learn these skills, but it's something that's taught and trained. So I think overall it's just the kind of person that they are, if they're open-minded to learning, open-minded to growing, right? And they're willing to put in the initiative to learn and grow those skills. And that's where the success lies, and kind of what we're looking for, right? Someone who is looking to take on those challenges, someone who's looking to grow themselves, right?
Joe,
Yeah.
well, I think Joe should talk for a moment about our POETS program too, because it is a measurable requirement.
Yeah, so recruitment has added in the physical aptitude tests, right? So what they basically do is it's a test to see if physically capable, because there is some challenging jobs in the line, right? It is physicality as well. So those jobs kind of, what we've done is taken all of them and basically make a physical test that people will go to before they start off, and then they will test them to see if they could handle this type of work, right? So it's also important to be honest with yourself too about what your body can handle, right? But again, even there's a job for everybody, right? Everybody has a different strength and weakness. So as long as you can meet those standards and right criteria, then you're able to find something, right? There's something different for everybody. Everyone has a different skill or aptitude. So it's important to remember that too, right?
Mm-hmm. It's so true. What one person, you know, you can go into a baking environment and it's like that hot, sweet smell all day, and that's like awful to somebody. And then they'll walk into a meat plant and like, I can deal with this. And then vice versa. And then others that are just, you know, unable, or if there are some physical challenges, you know, with the environment. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Joe? You know, what you should expect. And maybe this is the time to sort of dispel some misconceptions about the industry as well, and what people expect, and how you've had they're pleasantly surprised when they do come out to the plant.
So one thing, when you come to the plant, it's very consistent in work for our schedule. So a lot of times you hear of like continental shifts and stuff like that. So that doesn't happen with us. So looking at that, your shifts are very predictable, right? So it's very specific on what you do. But on the line, the stuff you're looking for physicalities is it's very repetitive work in a way, right? So a lot of the stuff you do on the line is repetitive, but we do a lot of rotation on our lines. So a lot of times people, when they think of factory work or the food industry, they think of doing the same thing all the time. So there has been a big push in the industry to prevent injuries and whatnot, and to really, it's good for the mind to do something different, learn new things. So we've really made up for job rotation. So rather than just doing the same thing every day, we rotate people every 2 hours. We've had a lot of good feedback on that style, and it's really helped us out with employees as well. We've had good feedback from everybody about that. So that's a lot of times I find a big issue with the industry is people are expecting that. And it's not sometimes something you want to get into, but after seeing it, it has been a good improvement.
Does anyone else want to jump in there about misconceptions? Like something maybe even your friends have said, oh, it must be like this, and you're like, they have no idea.
Yeah, for me, I think oftentimes the supporting departments often get overlooked. I mean, on the production side, that's kind of the operations is the main focus, whereas finance and IT and QA, there's all these different departments that also support the operations. And I think oftentimes those are really overlooked, where we still have the accounting team, we still have payables, we still have receivables, just like every other company. The other one for me, I remember when I came for a tour, I was blown away by how clean everything is. I mean, I didn't realize that we had a full wash down every single day, which is pretty insane that they work throughout the night. And also the automation, how we incorporate robotics and automation into our process is not as traditional anymore. We're continuing to evolve as a company to include better automation that creates better products that drive greater value to provide our producers back.
You mentioned the word robotics. That's definitely a word that catches the attention of the next generation. So where, you know, the next generation of professionals, I should say, that you know, they do want more of that. And you mentioned IT and there's sales, marketing, social media. There's so many pieces to an overall organization that I agree 100%. It's not just the operations side, which in itself is evolving. And you know, those different roles, we've got skilled trades as well. Like we mentioned millwrights, they're all in need, right? It's much bigger than that. Michael, did you have something to add? Yeah.
Just the one thing, I've done a number of tours on the floor for candidates and whatnot. And the one thing I tell them at the start is this: everything you're seeing is age old. The process has been happening the same way for hundreds of years. But what you're going to see is it's been codified and made efficient. And it's endlessly fascinating how we've taken that process and made it cleaner, made it safer. You go back 100 years, it wasn't like this. It wasn't safe for the worker nor for the consumer, but all of that's been taken care of. And if you look at it that way, Henry Ford figured out the assembly line by going into an abattoir and seeing how they disassembled an animal. What we're doing is that, and it's just a very fascinating process how it's done. And so I try to prime people with that, and that it's age old. What we're doing is not new. It's been done the same way for hundreds of years.
That's awesome. We have a few more questions. Does Conestoga have any entry level roles for recent graduates right now? Anyone can jump in and answer that.
I'll speak for the HR department because I work in the HR department. We have, I think there's about 10 co-ops that we've have this term, and we've started a co-op program. So there's a succession of co-ops for their various terms in engineering, HR, QA, maintenance as well. Help me out here. Sales and
You got the recruiter in the background. We need.
You're a pleasure. But hopefully that answers the question that there is, as I said, 10 or 11 different co-ops throughout the organization. And those are people that are still in university. So
I love that you have a co-op program as well. I think more and more companies need to adopt and follow suit that, that what you're doing there at Conestoga, because they bring so much value. And we, in our organization, hire quite a few co-ops each year, each semester as well. And they're invaluable. They bring such fresh ideas, and it can be something like I mentioned, social media, and they're bringing all those wonderful skills and insights and can make you look at things differently. So I think, we can certainly promote your co-op program, through our FoodGrads channels and to our FoodGrads audience. So that's amazing. Joe, did you want to add there?
I think overall, if someone specifically is looking for Conestoga as a place for employment, our website does offer job postings and whatnot. They do put those up, so it's a good thing to keep an eye on. We also do posts on Indeed. I see a lot of job postings and stuff like that. So if anybody's looking directly, just for that specific question, right? It's a good way to keep an eye out. There is always postings going up for different reasons. I'm not sure this person's specific background, but it's there's opportunities all the time. I mean, like Michael mentioned with co-op, but I'm not sure their specific background. But do check Indeed, right, to keep an eye on the company's website as well, right? Or even contacting the recruitment department as well. You can call Conestoga and get a hold of the recruitment department. They'll be able to let you know what's going on as well, right? So, but I think I'm not sure what they're actually looking for specifically, but that's pretty much the best one I can give for that question.
So go to look at the website. Thank you, Nan. I appreciate the question. Another question, job rotation is huge. This is very comparable to the Toyota way. So yeah, that was just more about a comment. So I think that was from what you said before. I'd like to kind of ask each of you, how do you keep yourself motivated in your job, and how do you motivate others in your team? I don't mind who wants to kind of go with that first, but I think in the environment we're in with labor shortages and talent attraction, I think staying motivated and retention is huge. I should add for companies. So how do you stay motivated, and how do you motivate your team?
Yeah, I can go first. For me, how I stay motivated is it's kind of the nature of my job, but there's so many different new projects, new challenges, new learnings, and just staying up to date on all that stuff. And every day I'm brought into a new problem or trying to find a solution. I think that for me is very challenging and really rewarding in the end. For my team, I think it's a lot of the same. I feel like that's very individualistic, depending on how the person is motivated. I think really connecting with them and building a great relationship with them is the key to all of that.
That's a great answer. Michael, you want to go next?
Yeah. How do I stay motivated? I've been blessed in my career in that going back as a chef, I rarely had somebody over me saying, "Oh, you can't do that." I just did it, and I never took that lightly. And when I moved into my role in HR in training, the president said to me, "Michael, this is an opportunity for you to define the role. Nobody's ever done this before here." And so I took that curiosity and that willingness to learn new things seriously. And I've learned lots of new software. As we talked before this call, I've learned a lot about video editing. I never edited a video in my life before I started this job, but that opened up other opportunities. And for my team, I try to remind myself, hey, I never had anybody standing over me saying you can't do that. So when they come forth with an idea, I'm trying to encourage it and say, give them all the same tools that I had Instead, run with it. That's a good idea, and try to be encouraging in that way, because I didn't have somebody saying, Mike, you can't do that. I just went ahead and did it.
Stay in your box, stay in your lane. Don't, yeah.
And I have to remind myself to just go for it. Yeah. If you want to use that tool for that, have at it. Let's see how it goes. And so that's how I motivate myself. And I just try to keep doing that for my team as well.
Joe, you want to go ahead?
Right. For me, how do I motivate myself? For me, I'm always big with change. I like change. I like something different every day. And my role does have that, right? Never is a day the same for me. I'm not much of an office person where I prefer to sit down and see my calendar and see the same thing. So with me, we have new customers constantly coming. We're all constantly expanding into new markets, new countries. So it's change for me that kind of keeps me motivated and keeps me going, right? And I like to improve on my learning and education as well. So I feel like when you're learning something at your workplace as well, it's motivated. I think most people go to work every day wanting to do a good job, wanting to improve, wanting to have that kind of atmosphere. So that's how I stay motivated for myself. And it's just trying to keep growing, right? Trying to keep up with the change, stay relevant, all these different things. And I think for motivating a team, I think it's like Ryan and Michael touched on, I think it's a culture you create. So you want to create a culture that people can come in, and those things are all, there's an opportunity for those things for them when they come in, right? So treating people properly, creating a good culture where everybody can learn and grow in, creating opportunity, building and leveraging talent, all these different things are stuff that you do, because most people want to feel like when good work is done, it's recognized. There's something to gain from it, right? It's going to be recognized, and there's opportunity that will come from it. I think as long as you're creating that culture of that with employees.
That's awesome. What I've got a few more questions I've got a lot more questions, but and I'm trying to pick out what I think will be most relevant for this audience. What would you say is your maybe start with you again, Ryan? Your biggest challenge? The days that you come in and you feel really challenged.
Honestly, that depends on the different project that I'm working on. I guess one of the biggest challenges, especially as a growing company, is trying to prioritize properly. I may have a million different things, a million different requests coming at me. It's all about prioritizing and talking through with my manager what needs to be done and what can be pushed off. For me, is the biggest challenge.
I think that's everyone. Oh my gosh, you just described my life. Michael, you want to go next?
I think the biggest challenge is we have a lot of different learning audiences, and to try to make the learning stick for a large group of people, that is a challenge. We have a lot of ESL, English as a second language, and that is so. How do we take that information, break it down, use pictures? And I know, I'll be honest, it doesn't always land, but I'm always asking myself, okay, what can we do different to make it land for more people? It'll always be a challenge here for us.
And I think even just you saying that means you care, you're inclusive, you're trying to make people feel included, which is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Joe, you want to go?
Yeah, for challenges for me, it's the same thing. We do have a lot of ESL as well. So sometimes proper communication is always something you really need in a workplace, right? So when you're communicating with someone, we do use translators a lot to make sure the messages are being conveyed, but you're kind of putting your trust in another person. So my job relies on communication a lot. So sometimes when you're communicating through somebody, you're hoping that the message is conveyed a lot. So you're finding yourself a lot of times, you got to follow up on things, right? Make sure that it is going as planned. But I think that would be my biggest challenge for the day, is just making sure communication is always carried out properly and understood on all parties.
Anyone can go first with this. What's the best piece of advice you received when you were starting out?
I can go first on that. And just while I was a student still, the best piece of advice was continue to network, connect with people, play that student card, because a lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, people will respond back to you, whether that's on LinkedIn or shooting them an email. Most people are willing to sit down with you and help you. So using, like I said, that student card and really leveraging your network, building out your network, and understanding what people are working on in order to try to say, can I see myself doing that is a big thing.
Michael, you want to go next?
I'm older than these two guys too, so advice. I think it.
Wiser, would you say wiser? Older way.
Advice. My grandfather said people always got to eat. When I started cooking, he said, "Mike, you got the best job because people always got to eat." Is a good one. But the other one is, I'm proof that it's a long game. Like if you think you're going to skyrocket to the top, think again. Like it's a long game, and be patient and reap what you sow, and be positive.
I like that.
Yeah, for me, it has been a while. I've been here 12 years. I think in the beginning, something that someone once said to me was, you have to treat every day, like to laugh, treat every day as equal. So right off the start, your career starts then, right? So you have to think of when you start with a new company or whichever it is, your first day is just as important as the one you choose to be pursued down a certain role, right? So try to treat every single day as a learning opportunity, as a chance to grow, as a chance to pursue something, have a goal, right? And I think that's how you can find success for yourself.
I would agree. And so what advice would you give to new grads or people who are unsure about their next steps? Like say, I spend my days trying to encourage people to look at the food and beverage industry for all the reasons we've just talked about. That's recession proof. There's long-term careers you can start entry level and work your way up. Well, I'd just love to hear your perspective on what you would say to a new grad that's unsure. And like maybe you mentioned McMaster right at the beginning, Ryan, and I did a session with some McMaster engineers, and I was blown away that within I think it was around 200 engineers, and maybe 2 of them had even considered the food industry as a place to carve out a career. Yet when you look at your teammates, how many engineers do you have on your team? So I just think it was mind-blowing to me. So what would you say to any students and grads that are like, nah, about the food industry?
I would say don't be afraid to reach out and connect with people who have been successful in the food and beverage industry. Continue to look at those opportunities as opportunities and seize them when you can. Like I said earlier, building out your network and really talking with people will help them understand what opportunities there are. And even here at Conestoga, we're growing so fast. Even over the last 5 years, we've grown so fast that there's always going to be more opportunities and opportunities to grow in your career as well.
Perfect. Michael, you want to jump in there?
Well, advice for a student would be if you think the grass is greener on the other side, think again, right? And if you have preconceived notions of the food industry, forget all of them. It's an industry. It's an industry just like any other industry.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice.
And for me, it's I think it's give it a chance, right? With I have mentioned before, it's there's opportunity, and I think when you say there's only 2 people considered it, that means your competition is 2 people as opposed to 198 others, right? So keep that in mind, especially if you're a newer person looking to get in. Maybe one day in the future you choose to go otherwise, but it is relevant because no matter where you work in your field, it can be transferred over somewhere else. So you may find yourself staying like I did, right? But I think overall, just entry level, you should be going where the most opportunity is. So just what you said there, it's 198 out of 2. So there's pretty good odds there of good success for you if you follow along with that, right? So I think that has to be kept in mind too. You want to go where there's opportunity for you, especially if you're a newer person with limited experience. And the food industry is a great place to start.
I couldn't agree more. In terms of networking, you talked about the benefit of networking, reaching out on LinkedIn. There's all these wonderful things. Michael, as you mentioned, you're the oldest and wisest, arguably. What would you give? What would you say to folks just starting out in terms of their networking? In terms of how they carry themselves in the industry. I always say, don't burn bridges, that kind of thing. The food industry it's big, but it's really small. You could be at an event one day and then you're sitting next to somebody and, they used to work with them. Well, what would your advice be, just in how you conduct yourself in the workplace if you're just starting out?
Same advice I gave earlier, just be positive. Be positive and be open-minded and be inquisitive. You never know where you're going to go, right?
And if you want to leave, if you want to grow within the organization, what would you advise them, in terms of who do they speak to? How do they conduct themselves?
So I've been guidance counselor at times here, and I tell people on the floor, be positive, but take some courses, figure out where you want to go, take a couple of courses, but make sure your supervisor knows that you're taking these courses and remind them gently a couple of times, because you're just one of, as Joe said, 146. Doesn't mean you're not important. You're just one of 146. But if you conduct yourself well, professionally, then let them know that you have aspirations and that you're taking these courses. That's about all you can do, right?
That's how they can stand out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ryan, you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think just carrying yourself in a good manner, be professional, and be open and honest with your manager. If you don't think that this is something for you, be open and honest and have that communication. I'm sure they're more than happy to work with you rather than surprising them one day.
Joe, anything to add?
Yeah, I think you just have to consider for yourself. For me, I always like to look for initiative. So what is that person doing for themselves to better themselves? It's one thing to ask everything from your company or ask for opportunities, but you need to be showing the initiative as well. So I think when people take on that initiative, you can really stand out in that aspect, right? So, and like Michael said too, you want to be proud of those things you're doing too. So tell somebody about it, ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for the right avenue, ask if there's a specific course you should be taking. Those are things you should be reaching out to your company about, to be making sure that you are on the right track. Maybe they can steer you in the right direction about a gap they're looking to fill in the future. So you want to, I think, communicate about those things, and as well, make sure you're taking your own initiative as well to grow as an employee, as a person, right?
Great answers. I have one. I'm cognizant at the time. I promised I would let you go at 11 o'clock. So I will stick to that. But one last question for each of you. Two parts. What is the best thing about working at Conestoga? And what is the best thing about your job specifically? Ryan, do you want to go first, or do you want to pass it over if you want to think about it?
No, sure. I think the best part of working at Conestoga is the people and the culture. I love who I work with. I love being able to reach so many different departments on a day-to-day basis. And I love, talking with them and getting to know them. The best part about my job itself is the challenges that I have every day. The daily, I don't know what I'm going to be working on today, but I know it's going to be interesting, and I know it's going to be challenging. I know it's going to be fun. So
you don't look at the clock all day. You're not looking at your watch all day.
No, that's for certain.
My favorite part is the culture. I love the culture. We've talked a lot about it. It is very unique at Conestoga Meats. I love it. And the thing I love most about my job is just the relative autonomy to do what I love to do.
Amazing. And Joe?
For me, it's learning and growing the new customers, right? And again, the culture. I think my role directly, because I do have a larger amount of people underneath me that I'm responsible for, I really have a chance to change the culture, and we kind of have values and whatnot that we have at Conestoga. So we're looking to really bring those out and create a culture that people want to come into, that people can grow in, all those different things. So me, I enjoy that, right? That's something that I've always been valued.
Amazing. And I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Conestoga Meats has always been a true supporter of people entering the industry. It's very, like you mentioned at the beginning, the Conestoga values are a we, not me. And I really feel that comes through to the larger industry as well. Years ago, we started Taste Your Future, and now with CareersNow, Pauline and other staff members have always been willing to come and talk to students, join us, when we were doing in-person events years ago, and then even things like this now today. So it really does speak volumes for the organization and the culture as a testament to you. And I can't thank you enough for your time today. We couldn't do these types of sessions without individuals like you sharing your story. Thank you so much, Ryan, Michael, and Joe, for joining us. And we have another session on Thursday with Careers Now. Please feel free to visit the website, whether you're a job seeker or an employer. We have a ton of information there for both on skill development, on job fairs, on mentorship sessions. And we actually have a job fair next at 11 o'clock, which I'm part of that. So I'm going to jump and do that. So thank you again. Really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nicole.
Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.